Today I direct that all cabinet secretaries, chief administrative secretaries, and principal secretaries to scale down all in-person engagements within government and to take appropriate steps to foster the discharge of their mandates by themselves and their officers through virtual means where possible. 2, similarly, and to protect government staffers drawn from vulnerable groups, I direct that all state and public officers aged above 58 years or who are immunocompromised to work remotely. This with the exemption of those serving the nation in critical sectors. Number 3, with respect to the examination classes that have already resumed learning, I hereby order that they continue with their learning and examination preparations, but under heightened health safety measures, and with that, also order that all basic education classes resuming in-person learning in January of 2021. 4, to foster the state's preparedness towards the reopening of all classes in our learning institutions in January, I urge and encourage members of Parliament to engage their respective NGAF and CDF boards with a view of finding ways to augment the existing interventions that are geared towards the reopening of our schools. I urge them to make investments that focus on additional hand-washing points in our schools, on the provision of face masks to our children, on general sanitization in our schools, as well as the physical distancing of students and teachers. And number 5, that all political gatherings and rallies are suspended for a period of 60 days, and this to take effect immediately. And anyone wishing to hold such meetings should do so in town halls, and in doing so must observe all COVID protocols, including limiting the attendees to 1/3 seating capacity of the hall and the wearing of face masks. And that 6, to enforce compliance at both the national and county levels, I direct the Ministry of Interior to constitute a special enforcement unit made up of the National Police Service, the National Government Administration officers, supplemented by the county government inspectorate units, to jointly enforce all COVID protocols. And that 7, that the nationwide curfew is extended up to the 3rd of January 2021. And 8, that beginning tonight, the 4th of November, the curfew will now be enforced between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning. And 9, in consequence of the variation of the 10 p.m. curfew, all bars, restaurants, and other establishments open to the public must now close by 9 p.m. 10. In view of the restrictions within the hospitality sector, I further urge all operators of hotels, restaurants, eateries, bars, and other establishments that sell alcohol on wholesale or retail terms to do all that is necessary to ensure enhanced compliance with the Ministry of Health's guidelines and protocols. And those who fail will have their establishments immediately shut down. 11, that the directions governing religious gatherings remain unchanged. Any indoor religious gathering, other than for the purpose of a wedding or a funeral, shall have no more than 1/3 of its normal seating capacity occupied at a given sitting. The Ministry of Health guidelines remain in force. The Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government is hereby directed to ensure strict enforcement, and those who fail to meet those requirements will be stopped from further gatherings. And 12, county governments to maintain isolation facilities in a state of preparedness through continuous capacity building for healthcare workers, provision of adequate PPEs for healthcare workers, and continuous implementation of infection prevention control measures, and the provision of piped or portable oxygen. 13, I want to make it abundantly clear that where there is an upsurge of COVID-19 cases in a specific county, the national government will consult the affected county to issue localized lockdowns and movement restrictions as may be necessary to stem the spread of the disease. 14, county governments and other relevant government agencies to enhance and strictly enforce all public health social measures, including hand washing, social distancing, and mandatory wearing of masks in public places, and to enhance civic responsibility. The national government and county governments have today resolved that going forward, services will not be rendered to anyone who does not abide by the Ministry of Health protocols. And in that regard, I call on the private sector to join the government in the public sensitization campaign dubbed No Mask, No Service. Bila barakoa, hakuna huduma. This applies to markets. This applies to all places where public must continue to conduct service, and as I said, in the spirit of wanting to remain open. But those who fail, we will not hesitate to shut down markets. We will not hesitate to shut down public transport places in order to ensure the health and safety of our citizens.